We are back to attack with the Mac and Jacks. Chad, hit it.
If you're interested in being great, you better look hard into Washington State. You want to be great? Go to Washington State, baby.
Welcome back to the Palouse Playbook podcast. And you know what? I'm actually going to give this at the beginning of the show. We were talking about throwing this at the end. Guys, are we running an air raid this upcoming year? What kind of offense are we running and why?
Who's going first? Because I kind of want to go first. I want to
get in there.
I'm pretty excited about it. And I wasn't there in Pullman, so I'm not going to pretend like I truly understand the offense. I remember seeing or reading Sage talking about how it's not going to be an air raid. So quickly would agree with that. Maybe he's trying to throw off the opponents. But then when I watched tape, back when I was on campus and Mike Leach was there, an air raid offense had about a 3-foot split. I didn't see 3-foot splits. So that's completely different. I know we were talking about a couple of different offenses, but I want to shoot it off to Kyle. That's like the chess. Mike Leach was so big on those splits. He would be in those offensive lineman ears if they weren't doing it. They had a way of just hand up, touching shoulders, making sure the splits were there. I never saw any of that. So not an air raid.
What about you?
I completely agree. I think you'll see air raid concepts, which you see in any offense. But I mean, you look at the makeup of the team. We've got a 3-headed monster at running back. We've got a 5-headed monster at tight end, something that Leach never possessed. It's just, to me, it's a West Coast offense. You know, we'll hit stuff short. We'll run. We'll take deep shots when available. But, you know, again, air raid offense, fine green grass. But this is a West Coast offense with, I think, you know, with Kirby Moore coming up through Chris Peterson, I think it's going to be a very innovative West Coast offense.
Yeah, and then you think about it, Moore coming from the offense he's coming from, heavy run. And same thing too with Coach Matt. I mean, he's formerly a wide receiver coach for Boise State, and now he's here as our QB coach, offensive coordinator. And they ran the ball a lot at Boise State. I don't know if you remember a running back by the name of Ashton Genty.
Little Ashton Genty, baby.
Yeah. So
yeah, and looking at their offense at Mizzou and the way he ran it, it was more balanced. They did have Luther Burden, right? They had some really top tier wide receivers. I know they had one of their second tier wide receivers that got into a verbal altercation with one of the other players. What was it? Knoxville, Tennessee. I can't remember who they were playing, but they were jaw jacking each other, and it was the number 2 behind Luther Burden. But they've had some really good wide receivers.
And like, that's what it's all about, though. I mean, like, going deep doesn't make it an air raid offense. Luther Burden's, he's fast, right? So it's like you're setting up that deep ball. That doesn't make it an air raid. That's my opinion.
And if you look at Mizzou's offense, it's a tale of two different stories. When you have Brady Cook as the quarterback, very much more of a passing offense with a complementary run game. When it was last season, I think it was Bo Prebull, who was average thrower. He was more of a runner. They ran the ball. I mean, and then when he got hurt, they really ran the ball. So to me, I think if you look back at when Brady Cook ran that offense for Missouri, that to me is the closer representation to what I think we're going to see with the Cougs, with, I think, more of an element in the run game, just because you can't ignore having 3 really good backs on a staff.
The amount of weapons that they have in the backfield, I will say it again, and Kyle, reiterate what you had said already before I even said it for a second time, and that is they have so many good weapons in the backfield. You just got to give your athletes, the ball. I did get questioned on that on one of our shorts. I think somebody was just trying to poke fun. They were like, "Hey, what athletes?" And I named off pretty much everybody on our offense, and yeah, they didn't like it very much. They're like, "Who? What's this? How's the Pac 8 going to be?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well,
Probably just a
Apologies.
troll Husky fan. That's all it
I
is.
know. Well, and it may not even be a Husky fan. We just might be witnessing a new person that just hates the new Pac-12 and wants to call it the Pac-8. Hey, listen, do you call it the Big 16? No, you call it the Big 12. Do you call it the Big 18? No, you call it the Big 10. Why? Because that's their label. That's what they've earned. And it's just
Let's
how
just
it
be
goes.
honest. This guy's probably the number one guy on the wait list when Bellevue College gets a football team. So let's just calm down. We'll move forward.
Stupid Green River, like what are we doing here?
And all I have to say to that though is, guys, I'm so jacked, and we all feel really strong about this defense. We know over this offseason, Pinnick, Duggar, whatever the QB is going to start gelling with those receivers. And we just didn't have healthy guys in the receiving corps. So guys are going to gel over the offseason. The offense is going to be fine, and our defense is going to be elite. I would be willing to bet best in the pack, baby.
Segue, baby, because we're going to get into this depth chart, and we're going to absolutely talk about the impact players that we're about to see this fall. Let's start with the offense. Kyle, let's throw it to you first because I love your take on the offense. Boom, here's what we got. A huge shout out to Washington State Report or Wazoo Report on Instagram. They put together these graphics. Amazing job. Please go follow them. They do great work. I think they have over 4,000 people following them and stuff like that. Obviously, great work. So wanted to give them a shout out. But here's what you have. You have Clemens, Hawkins, and Freeman as your three wide receivers that you're running tank with per this one, and then we'll get into who we think is going to start in our opinions. Peterson at starting at tight end, Voorhees at running back, Caden Pinnick taking the snaps, and then you got Tripp, Lester, Martin, Dunham, and McCree on the line. Nosey, what are your thoughts here?
So again, this is one offense, one play set. So obviously it's very interchangeable. From the receiver perspective, I mean, you can put whoever you want up. Honestly, I'd put Jay Porter out there just because he was healthy. I mean, if you think about probably our 5 or 6 receivers, we were going into camp thinking we're going to be there. Maybe one of them was healthy. And so to me, I love the depth chart. I love the look. We can all speculate, but it's kind of a toss up there. Now, Clemens, right? You have the size, especially if you look at the 4 out there or the 3 out there. He's by far the biggest. I think he's 6'4". So you need that size. Peterson, he proved it in camp. He killed it in camp. There's also a guy named Trey Lechner we haven't even talked about because he's been hurt too. So again, I think it's kind of come back to, the amount of weapons we have. And I think with the receivers being hurt, it gave the ability to see what we had in the tight end room, which I think is maybe one of the biggest surprises this offseason was we've got some studs at tight end. We got blockers. We got guys that can catch the ball. I mean, I feel like sometimes we're a hockey team. We got 3 lines of offensive, weapons that we can put out there. I think that fourth quarter is going to be a fun time because these guys are going to be fresh. We're not relying on 1-2 guys to play every snap offensively. Fun stuff. But quarterback, I'm not shocked by that. Running back, again, I think it's a 3-headed monster. Voorhees, I think, has earned the start, to go into the year, and we see what changes. Again, it could change in 2 quarters. It just depends who has the hot hand. And then the offensive line, I know, Chad, you'll probably touch more on it a little bit later, but I'm cool with everybody but right tackle. I'm not too – I would say probably Caldwell, but just – familiarity with the offense from last year, but he's also not been healthy all the time. McCree, that's been kind of his one knock is he's really never been healthy, but when he has been, he's been great. So, it's great. It's a great graphic. I think I agree with a lot of it, but there's a lot to be unraveled here the next, going into fall ball.
Yeah. I mean, offensively, nobody really stood out during camp for whatever reason. I mean, it just
our
depends.
Defense was that good.
Defense was that good, and we just talked about it. We've talked about it several times. Defense always has that extra step on them. A lot of guys injured, especially on the offensive line. When I was the equipment guy, offensive line was my first position group that I took over, so I always really loved watching the big hosses up front. And it'll be interesting. There's 2 guys that we brought in through the portal, or at least one guy that we brought in through the portal, one actual returning starter, Caldwell. didn't see him listed on that depth chart, but I think he's just talking about like how good could this offensive line become. Is Caldwell a guy that could maybe slide interior? I felt like he was actually pretty athletic and moved pretty well from a right tackle position, where maybe you can start seeing some competition that we need on the interior line coming back from that injury. And then I know Teaga, who we got from Utah, didn't play a snap during the spring. Really excited to see, huge size. And then obviously at right tackle to start this year, it was McCree, right? For during the spring camp, and he played the full camp. So it was great. Obviously got to put the guys in that were playing in first on that list. But then I go to like the outside receiver spot, and who's going to challenge? I really love, and I know you guys like Ryan McKendry. I'm just waiting for his name to show up. I love the way he runs his routes. The film it pops for me. So excited to see what he can do. But I want to say one thing about the receiver core. I think it's way deeper and more talented than last year's receiving core.
Yeah.
Obviously haven't seen enough, haven't seen it in person, but on paper, we're deeper, which is nice. And then running back speaks for itself, man. We're going to have the best running back crew in the room. It's going to be great.
So wanted to point out a couple things. Jalen Caldwell, who I am very excited to see. I believe he's a Grand Valley State guy, which Grand Valley State has a dominating Division II program. Per Greg Woods at the beginning of spring, March 25th, 4 players missed all of spring ball with injuries. Jalen Caldwell with the knee, Trey Lechner with the foot, Kalolo Ta'aga with the foot, and then Kyle Peterson with the shoulder. So once we get those guys back, Caldwell, and I guess following that, Caldwell's injury means offensive lineman Max McCree will play right tackle. So this could be just kind of an indication of spring. And things could change once we get back and everything. I'm very curious to see how deep the knee injury goes and see. Hopefully he's good. I hope all these guys are good to go once we come back. I believe July or whenever they report again. I hope that they're all back and hope they all get a fair chance to get their starting dues. But yeah, Max McCree going on to his last year of eligibility with Jalen Caldwell, it's going to be a great battle, and whoever wins, I think, is going to do a great job, whether it be Max McCree, whether it be Jalen Caldwell. Very excited to see what these guys can do. And I think we're going to get a mauling offensive line. I think getting these guys, the chemistry was one of the biggest pieces. They've gained chemistry because they had a good group that returned from last year, and they're adding in key pieces that have, solid work of frame over their college tenure. And now they're coming into an offense that already has a chemistry built. So wanted to at least point out those. And then for my take on this offense, just to kind of go back to it, offensive line, I think you nailed it. You got Tripp, Lester, Martin, Dunham, McCree, and I think, that right tackle could be McCree, could be Jalen Caldwell. Just excited to see that battle go out. Tank Hawkins, I think, will definitely be a really good deep ball threat. Clemens, obviously coming off of being a very high prospect. Tony Freeman returning. There's one person that was kind of a not a threat. Threat may be a good word, but just a target for almost all the quarterbacks, and that's Daniel Blood. And he's coming in the same offense from Mizzou. So I wanted to at least give him his flowers, and I think that there's a chance that he cracks the starting roster and he becomes a legitimate target. I think his routes and the way he plays the game is just at a very high level, and it's not downgrading any of the guys that we're talking about. I just think that with what he brings to the table, he brings that SEC football to the new Pac-12, and I think we're gonna fall in love with Daniel Blood starting game 1 against UW on September 5th. Wrapping up the offense, Caden Pinnick. Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat with Caden Pinnick. I haven't seen anything shift otherwise, and that's not a stab. If anybody out there is listening, that's not a stab to Owen Eshelman or Julian Duggar. They are great pieces to just have, and that the battle will continue. This is a projection. This is not an end all be all. There's more to this story come the fall, and I'm very excited to see what that could be. And I think that you're going to have integration from multiple quarterbacks throughout the year. Now, bleeding into the defense, and this is going to be a fun one. Chad, we'll start with you this time. Here's what they had kind of out there. They had Jeremiah Bernard as strong safety, Jason Frosto Ramos at free safety, Jalen Thomas at nickelback, Kamari Terrell, the Texas State transfer, in at cornerback, and Jaleel Tucker in at the other cornerback. Both the Browns, Nylan Brown and Keith Brown at linebacker, McLean, Hudson, Beatty, Zunk on the defensive line. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that interior defensive line, I think it just depends on like what set is who you're going to see out there. How many times have they been? I don't know if there's going to be like a true starter on the defensive line, because I know DeMarja Lewis, I think that's how you pronounce his first name, had a great camp. Notice he wasn't on the depth on the first string, and he's going to be somebody that's going to clog up the middle. I don't know if you saw a recent photo of him with the whole D line. His stomach was out there, and I loved it. Big boy,
little
make
Vince Wilfork
noise.
action,
like
big
Joel
boys make
says, right? And that's the kind of belly I want in the middle of my defensive line. So that was one thing that stuck out to me the last like week and a half of just seeing some photos of Coug football. But yeah, and then at the middle linebacker spot, I mean, DJ Warner, that's going to be a guy that's going to be pushing, but I get excited about our young linebackers too behind them, like Carson Reynolds, Isaiah Hung. Like those guys are talented too. So we're going to be running two linebackers most sets. So how are we going to be rotating them? I feel like, I just look at this Coug depth chart, offense, defense, and the biggest thing that stands out to me, we're so much deeper than last year. Maybe it was just we just ran into so many injuries and we're just excited about Cougar football. They haven't been playing enough to run into those injuries yet. But right now, guys, I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah, Nolsey, take it away with your thoughts on this defense. I'll pull it back up.
I think, you look at it, I think it's pretty straightforward. As Chad said, we are extremely deep. I think last year we were gifted with a lot of guys that knew how to play with one another just because we had the experience coming over from
Totally
South Dakota. But looking at this team, I think ESPN came out, it was like looking at like their top 12 like recruiting classes. They had us at 12, and I think it's our interior linemen or why we got that high of a ranking. DJ Warner's a one for me. I know they've been moving him to linebacker. I don't see you moving him to linebacker to not play him or to not have him, so that's where I know where we've talked about the 4-2-5.
And this kind of goes, like Kyle, sorry to interrupt, but this kind of goes to like what I said like earlier when we hired Coach Bray. Like he ran a 5 front on a lot of plays. Like I remember watching that Oregon State game, and you look at his depth chart, he had a Leo type defensive end that 6'5", 250. And I just remember joking to you guys, I'm like, we don't have a 6'5", 250 guy. And then when I look at like a DJ Warner, yes, he doesn't have the weight yet, but like the size and the mold, the speed, former defensive end, playing linebacker now, maybe that's that type of role they want, and they're adding more speed than he had. Because I know at Oregon State, they weren't getting around the edge as much. So maybe he wised up, right? And then like DJ is a guy that he recruited back in the day when he was at Oregon State. So he got the guy he wanted for that role.
Yeah. So, and just the way that college football works, where it's like, we see you being the guy for, not this year, but for the next 2 years. It's just not how football works. So if you're going to move a guy, you have an idea, hey, I'm removing you to play you, especially because you've got Keith Brown and Nylan Brown. You're not pulling them off the field. So to me, it's like you said, is he going to be the guy that comes in to be that fifth interior guy? We pull out whoever, pull out the nickel for him. So you run, I guess you want to call it what instead of a 4-2-5, it'd be a 5-2-4, something like that. Just kind of almost flip flop it, which would be absolutely disgusting. Our defensive line is already.
Yeah, third down and short. I think you package it in with the types of plays that come up. And I think you're right. I think between running the nickel and running a Leo and just going back and forth, depending on the situation, this team is so deep on defense that they can flip flop and rotate guys in and have that rotation on the front line. I agree. But first of all, want to get back to your thoughts. And I also forgot to mention Brandon Ganashworthy. I wanted to give him a shout out for a great spring. He did have, I believe, the 44-yard touchdown in the spring game. Eastside Catholic Zone. He's from the West Side over in Seattle area. Want to give him his flowers. I think he's going to make another jump. And whether he is starting or not, I think he's going to be an impact player at some point this year. I think he's going to be very impactful on this offense, and I wanted to give him a shout out. But Nolsey, wanted to get to the rest of your thoughts on this defense.
Scary.
How are we looking for the DBs here?
Well, I violent. They choose violence. I think that'll be a slogan that's used throughout. I think you look at this, or you look at our roster, or look at our defense, and it's just, it's a mound of clay. You can mold this thing any which way you want. We have the depth, we have the speed, size. I mean, I think Trent Bray's just going, I don't know what to do because there's so many things, so many different ways I can go. It's exciting. And I think that's going to also cause a lot of frustrations for offenses trying to scheme our defense. It's like, oh, cool, you think we're going to run this week? All right, guys, let's flip to this now. And we've got the guys to do it and be interchangeable. And come that fourth quarter, you're going to have some hogs in the trenches, fresh as daisies in that fourth quarter. It's going to be phenomenal.
Well, and I'll play on the other side of that fence too. I think Trent Bray's looking at this defense knowing exactly what he's going to do. He has all these guys deep. He knows exactly what he got from the spring. Now he knows how he wants to attack going into the fall. And as we see guys step up even more, or figure out where they're at in their depth chart over the course of the summer going into the fall, I think he already has a great plan, and he's going to implement an attack the exact way that he knows how to be successful. Like we've seen him at the successful level of Oregon State when they were on top of the world with beating Oregon and all that good stuff. But I love what he has on this defense.
I didn't mean it negatively. Like he doesn't kind of like, I don't know where I want to go, because I know I want to go here, but I also want to go here. Where do I, there's only so much time in the day of wanting to, scheme this or that. I think it's a great thing to have. Yes.
Definitely a great thing to have.
I got to flip the script a little bit. I mean, when I was on Pullman, my first 2 years, I was with Paul Wolf. He was our head coach. I saw some bad days. And so I'm going to put on my negative hat real quick. Fellas, offensively, what do you think our weakness is?
Offense.
Consistency.
Offensively, what is our weakness? Offense.
Consistency.
But I would say putting the ball in the end zone. We saw, and granted, I understand that this was spring and everything, but putting the ball in the end zone against a pretty good defense may be tough, may be challenging. Red zone could be a problem going into this thing, or they could figure, maybe they've utilized this like you utilize spring training, found out all the nooks and crannies that you can fill over the summer and into the fall, and also getting your healthy guys back. But just one thing that kind of stood out.
Yeah, for me, in the top of my head, just reading different articles, seeing some videos, is like a lot of timing issues. Guys coming from different schools, just different speeds, coming up from FCS, down from Power 4, different offenses, right? Some guys didn't even play a snap as a starter last year, so they're getting into a different zone. So I just feel like, for me, it's like this offseason, it's like I look forward to seeing those videos from the QBs, just getting those receivers out there in Pullman, just
that chemistry,
empty stadium, middle of Martin, just them just getting dialed in.
Well, and just to kind of put a cap on this defense, what I thought too is standouts from the spring. I swear, every practice I was hearing something about Bernard and Thomas, like whether it was a pick, whether they were all over the ball. I am very excited to see Bernard and Thomas this upcoming year. I really think Bernard, if he chooses to go into the draft this upcoming year, or stays for another year, whenever he decides to pop out into the draft, I think he's going to be a guy that you're going to circle, especially if you're a Seahawks fan. I'd love to see this guy in Seattle within the next couple of years. Thomas has been very consistent this spring. Jayshon Frosto Ramos, this is the guy that coined the term. I bring the violence, and I'm looking for the violence. So excited to see what he can do at the free safety position. And then also, Jaleel Tucker and Kamari Terrell bring with them some great experience already. The linebacker situation, I'm in the boat of this. I know DJ Warner, you're going to move him to that space to get him playing time. I think at first Nyland Brown and Keith Brown are going to be your starting linebackers, just because of Nyland Brown was a captain at Toledo, where he came from, and I could totally see him, taking over and being a very good, just the guy that communicates really well with Keith Brown, while DJ Warner starts to figure things out. But make no mistake about it, DJ Warner is going to be a problem on this defense, no matter how you package it. He's going to be an impact player. This team's got so much that they can rotate. We talk about McLean, Hudson, Beatty, Zunk, and we haven't even scratched the surface on how good this defensive line is going to be. If you've heard it from me, you've definitely heard it at least 5 times from Joel talking about big boys make noise, and this defensive line brings the freaking heat. I'm excited to see four lines deep, Elijah Tucker, Malachi Rice, guys that even that haven't really played a whole lot of snaps at this level, I think are going to emerge this year and also be dominating. Chad, I know you're itching to say something. Get in there.
Yeah, man. I'm always itching to talk about Cougs, man. Doesn't matter what time of the day it is. But when it comes, I'm just going to flip the script again. Give me something like, what's our weakness on defense? We talk about the positives. We're not there in Pullman. We can only just speculate. But what do you guys think? Like, how's the offense going to dice us up this next season?
I think there's a chance that chemistry plays a factor. And I think that comes into play no matter what school you're at in the NIL era of 2026, like we just talked about on offense. Now, this defense is pretty far ahead and very, very deep on the defensive line, and that's a very good spot to be. And as we're seeing from these interviews, as we're seeing from the players just chattering on social media, what have you, it looks like they're building that chemistry very quick. So I'm not really that worried about the chemistry. However, we're in the NIL era. It's a brand new team with guys that are playing, like you had said, up from the FCS level, playing, just a different speed of ball. So I think that also plays into their hunger. I think some of these guys are really hungry to go get some dudes. And that's what makes, for me, Jeremiah Bernard very dangerous. Nosey, what are your thoughts?
I agree. To me, but I think I'd focus more on the off script, feeling the confidence to go off script. Like, hey, I'm going to jump this. I know that this guy is going to be protecting me if I'm a corner, hey, I know they like to run flat on this down and distance. I'm going to jump this if I see him break. Hey, you got me on the backside, and understand, and having kind of those conversations and having that trust to say, everyone's on the same page. Again, that's NIL era. It's a little different, but I think that's, to me, the weakness right now is making sure is having them the confidence to go off script and know that, hey, if I gamble and I miss, I've got my teammate behind me to back me up.
Yeah, I mean, this one's a harder one compared to offense. I'm going to put it on the coaches, is our biggest risk. And it's not necessarily like their backgrounds. I don't think they're good coaches or anything. It's more of you got a lot of dudes. How are you going to keep them on the field? One, keep them healthy and keep them fresh and keep them rotating. I feel like that's a new style of defense. I feel like we've been seeing more and more of with the Cougs. I loved it, what they did in the last staff with their defensive line. I'd like to see more of that across the field. Obviously, the depth is there right now. The talent's there. There's a lot of guys that need to see the field. So it's how are you going to get them on the field and put them in the right positions at the right time too? That's the biggest thing.
Now, to finish this whole thing off, this one might be a little bit quicker. I have one quick note on this thing, but I'm going to toss it to you guys first. Special teams. Any surprises here with this one where it looks like, I believe kickoff is what they're saying there for Arenas. Kicker is Stevens. Long snapper is the JUCO transfer from the Bay Area, Sousa. And then Dean as the punter. And you got Freeman as a punt returner with Freeman and Voorhees as the kick returner. Anybody got anything on that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let me know.
Where is
would be the one that
Hawkins?
That's where I was going to go.
Where's the 4.3 speed? I don't know. I'm sure it'll pop up eventually. It's just a depth chart. But
yeah. Well,
that's just me. That's video game.
Especially from the running backs, I would think Maxwell if you're thinking running backs, not Voorhees. I mean, I don't. But yeah, to your point, where's Tank? Where's Daniel Blood? Like, where's your speedy guys? But again,
Yeah, my
it's a depth chart.
first thought was Tank Hawkins will probably be integrated at some point. The other thing is yeah, we're not behind the scenes. We don't know exactly what's going on. Maybe he struggles with just catching the ball in the air that distance. Who knows? But I feel like that's something that you could totally fix. But that speed, Tank Hawkins, you gotta be able to see that one. I trust Tony Freeman's going to do a fantastic job, but just to have Tank Hawkins and Tony Freeman running the ball back,
I'd like to keep Freeman healthy this year. I mean, he
Yeah.
ran into some injury problems last year. He's a senior. He's looking at going to that next level. I'm like, and you can say that Tank's a junior. He's probably going to be another year after that, hopefully. And so I'd rather have Tony healthy.
Well, he to your point, Tank didn't have a ton of snaps, I believe, at Florida. So this could be an opportunity for him to really take off, give him everything, and just being able to go. I don't disagree whatsoever. However, if Tony Freeman wants it, I kind of want to give it. I kind of want to give it to the guy that wants it the most too. So I go back and forth. I battle that idea in my head, but I love the idea of it.
I feel like, I mean, me personally, punt returner, you have to have a screw loose to like raise your hand for that.
It's a closer in baseball. You gotta be a little psycho to want the ball from that close of somebody who's closing speed on you and everything. Guys, any final thoughts from this offense, defense, special teams? We covered a good bit here, from impact players to just everything, guys that we're missing this spring that we're excited to see come back. And yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments too. By the way, if you think we missed somebody, please let us know. We want to hear more from your thoughts. We didn't get to go to the spring game, so if you got to go, you saw somebody that stuck out, please let us know. But tossing it over to you guys. Any final thoughts before we wrap this bad boy up?
No, man, I'm just excited to see the freshmen that come through. That nice little ripple of more depth, more talent. Waiting to see who shows up, because we can't run Cougar football with 3 QBs, right? So we've added at least one guy, I feel like, in the last few weeks. I forgot what position. Maybe was it corner or receiver?
I believe
you got Harrington at Anacortes, which is a huge get.
That's for next year's that's for a following year class.
Yeah.
We just recently added somebody for this coming summer.
And we also have Tarakaglu, who is still on the roster as well. Mm-hmm. That's going to provide great depth. So excited to see his name also pop up over the summer and bleeding into the fall and everything. So yeah, I think that's the next piece, is to see what freshmen are coming in, which ones weren't announced, which ones some of these kids may not even have Twitter. You never know. So wrapping up this thing, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Palouse Playbook. That's Chad, that's Kyle, I'm Gavin, and just remember, life's too short. Gas up, your boys.